overdiagnosis of disorders, personality, psychological disorders. I looked at this meme, and this meme says the fact that millions of school children require medication on a daily basis so they can more easily assimilate into the culture of public schooling does not mean that these children are damaged. It means that there is something wrong with the whole idea of schooling. Mark Twain, he had said that he never allowed his schooling to interfere with his education, separating the two concepts. Being lectured at, you only retain 5% of the entire information. So public school is bullshit. If you could survive public school, then good for you. But just there's many cases, but the overdiagnosis of ADHD. So ADHD, kids are going to be kids. Kids are going to have energy. Kids are going to want to run around. That whenever I'm anywhere and I'm having to do something and someone is just kind of looking over my shoulder and just like judging every single thing and criticizing every single thing, I don't feel comfortable. And so, I feel like sometimes I'm squirming in my chairs with the people that say 100% compliance, shut your mouth. And it's sort of fucked up that we teach our kids for the first 2 years of life to walk and talk, and then for the rest of the years to sit down and shut up. You have Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who says that for the first 12 years of a child's life, they should be allowed to do whatever they want to do. With one rule, do not harm anybody. But for the first 12 years, they get to develop who they are, what their ambitions are, what they want to do in life, their likes, their dislikes, to discover the world, to really figure it out. And you're going to have this little wild child at 12, and then so after 12, you got to work on getting them assimilated into. Because, what if that there is no disorder? What if they just have an indignation towards oppression? And I believe that that's actually what it is. Not only do you have ADHD, but they're starting to make up some disorders now, fucking insane disorders. Noam Chomsky says he's never understood life as not questioning authority. It's up to the authority figures. You have power over me. You have, power systems want to pretend like they have the authority to do this and to do that. Well, you need to prove to us, it is you who needs to prove to us that that authority is necessary. Why do you get that authority? What's the point of it? Is it just? Is it right? You have nonconformity and questioning authority disorder. You have what's the bigger one? It's called not just questioning authority, but they call it something else. But essentially, you have Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. Anybody who bucked from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder, DSM-IV. This is what the American Psychiatric Association, APA, they have the oppositional defiant disorder. And what is opposition defiant disorder? Those who question authority, refuse to comply with the status quo, and are open to debate. What? So MLK would have oppositional defiant disorder. Anybody that ever did anything great, they said Mozart, he would have had oppositional defiant. Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, they have oppositional defiant disorder. They don't have that. That's not a real thing. And what they're going to do is they're going to medicate that child so that way they're stupid and they just go through the motions, right? Oh, good. Look, he's like a damn vegetable. He's like a black hole. He's just sitting there, doing whatever the hell I tell him. That's a 1965, the list of mental illnesses included in the DSM-IV Diagnostic Statistic Manual, basically the Bible for the Psychiatric Association, American Psychiatric Association, has grown more than 3 times. So are we discovering disorders where they don't exist, or are they actually, coming up with things that we need? I think that there's both. I think there's clinical, things that we need, but I also think that there's overdiagnosis. And let's see, there's at least 227 more psychological disorders compared to 50 years ago, and it's altering our society, and it affects children. In recent times, there's a marked rise in cases of attention deficit disorder, bipolar disorder, depression in kids. I mean, this is ridiculous. They don't like oppression, and that's why there is so much obedience and compliance in the face of injustice. As a free-thinking American, it should send shivers down your spine that they're doing this. Governments have been doing this for quite some time. In the Soviet Union, people who didn't accept the policies of the Communist Party were diagnosed with a certain type of schizophrenia. One of the major symptoms of the illness was that they believed communism was wrong. So to remedy this situation, the sufferers were kept in seclusion, given medication, whether or not they wanted to take it, and had to undergo rehabilitation to cure them of their delusional notions. You have Alan Turing. I mean, homosexuality was a mental disorder. It was a mental disorder up until the 1970s when a lot of homosexuals started coming out and protesting it. 1970, they protested the APA convention in San Francisco, and then they repeated it in 1971. And then as people came out of the closet and felt empowered politically and socially, the APA directorate became increasingly uncomfortable with their. It makes sense, because if one of their disorders is bullshit and they fight to keep it into their manual, well then, are they making any type of sense whatsoever? People want to make fun of Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard, but that's really like his central notion, is that, they're doping our kids. They are doping our kids into submission. And, with the homosexuality, 1 out of 10 people are born gay. And so eventually, the APA, they went ahead and fixed it. So all of a sudden, something that was a disorder now isn't a disorder. Well, what's going on here? At any point, at any time, they could say that something is wrong, and then the next day it's not wrong. And there's been actually a lot of these, the Asperger's syndrome, that used to be something, it's not something now. And, we can just go on down the line. Alan Turing was a homosexual, and Alan Matheson Turing, he was a homosexual. He's also the father of theoretical computer science and artificial intelligence. So he is the father. He offers society a lot. But what happened? Eventually he was prosecuted in 1952 for homosexual acts, which was a criminal act in the United Kingdom. And so eventually he accepted chemical castration instead of going to prison. And then once he got chemically castrated, he eventually kills himself from cyanide poisoning. So, but that's what some people say. It could have been accidental poisoning. Regardless, we have this incredibly bright young man who kills himself because somebody thought that this shit was a disorder, chemical castration. And so that's bullshit. That's bullshit that we lost Alan Turing when he was, the father of artificial intelligence and theoretical computer science, just because he was diagnosed with a disorder that wasn't his. Now, if you have oppositional defiant disorder, you hate the oppression, so you hate the oppression of schools, they dope you up, that doesn't work, and now they're telling you that you're fucking crazy, and then they're putting you into a mental asylum, giving you lobotomies, shock therapies, still doping and drugging you up to where, it's almost like that Jack Nicholson's movie, One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He wasn't crazy until he went into the institution. Then he became crazy. And so that's, we're making people nuts. If there's oppositional defiant disorder, we're going to put them in a place of oppression. If we put them into a place of oppression, that's going to fix them. How about if we liberate them? How about if we give them some William Glass? And so, if you have to undergo any of these treatments and get a psychiatric exam, it'll make you wonder. If this is operational defiant disorder, then I'm guilty. I have that. I have oppositional defiant disorder. No, I don't want to be told what the fuck to do. I want to be in charge of my own life. And just because some ballsy Nazi wants to stand over my shoulder and tell me do this and do that, fuck off. No, why don't you kiss my ass? You want me to do what you tell me? Okay, then you do what I tell you. And, of course, you're not going to want to hear that, right? So there's many disorders, actually, that's on the DSM-IV. And if you just go down, if you have difficulty sleeping after drinking coffee, the problem isn't a product of your poor judgment and guzzling Java immediately before retirement. You're a victim of 292.89, caffeine-induced sleep disorder. You drunk a bunch of caffeine, you can't go to bed, well, you got a disorder. So you're going to have bunch of Mountain Dew before you go to bed and you can't go to bed, well, you're going to need to get some more drugs on top of the drugs that you already taken. If you reflect on your shyness while tossing and turning, the problem could be the epidemic of 300.23, social phobia, F40.1. So there's drugs for that too. Unfortunately, if you're thinking about your place in the cosmos or spiritual issues, then you got V62.89, religious or spiritual problem. And I'm not sure what drug you would put for that. Bad parenting is about to become a thing of the past because it's not your fault. It's ADHD, right? They have so much energy and they just want to be human. They want to be their own person. And so oppositional defiant disorder, F91.3. It's 313.81. Anyways, if your child often argues with adults, loses his temper, deliberately annoys people, you're dealing with OD. There it is again, oppositional defiant disorder. And let's listen to Pink Floyd, right? He's got ODD. Says that we're all just another brick in the wall. We are just a bunch of bricks in the wall. And you know, sometimes it's not oppositional defiant disorder. If this is different than conduct disorder, you know, 312.8, and disruptive behavior disorder, not otherwise specified. So disruptive behavior. Your behavior is disruptive. No, you're an oppressor, and I don't like oppression, and you're the one that's disrupting it. So you're the one with the fucking disorder, but these are the people that's going to be diagnosing, people who oppress others. You're an oppressor, and you want to control others. Well, that's fucked up. Why do you feel the need to do that? Well, we all have a thing of power for us, but not everybody wants to be a slave. Nor does anybody want, you know, I don't want to be a master nor a slave. You know who says that? Abraham Lincoln. Could you imagine what this country would be like if we gave Lincoln and MLK and Gandhi and Nelson Mandela some Ritalin? Yeah, get them some Ritalin, and maybe that'll help them. Or maybe let's fix the ills of society. You know, if you don't get along with your brother or sister, the condition is V61.8, sibling relational problem, F93.3. And if you argue with your spouse about whether the child should be grounded or drugged, then you're looking down the barrel of V61.1, partner relational problem. So partner relational problem, sibling relational problem. What the fuck? That's a disorder? That's a disorder. Perhaps they're assholes. Does that, you know, that they're the one with the disorder, you fucking assholes. And you think asshole is normal? It means you lack empathy. You're a fucking psycho, you know. And anxiety. That's John Stewart. His name actually forgets me, but I really like him. He was talking about the difference between him and serial killers was that he has crippling anxiety. That's what he said. He's got crippling anxiety. Some people try to say, you know, anxiety. There's something wrong with anxiety, but that's the thing with psychopaths. They have no empathy for others, and they have no anxiety. Well, anxiety just means you care what other people think, and so I think that's logical. Too much could be a problem, but having it means you're not going to go around killing everybody. So please have some anxiety. Please have some anxiety. If math homework is a challenge, mathematics disorder. Academic problem is also something else. So if things are okay in the math department and you have a teen experiencing uncertainty about life goals, career preferences, values, loyalties, well, that's an identity problem. But that's actually been downgraded from a disorder to just a problem. So, you know, I'm sure that's also Bob Dole has, you know, his erectile dysfunction. That's a disorder too. But then you could also go too far and have hypoactive sexual desire disorder. And so, you know, what does all this mean? What can we do with all this? If you think about the APA's decision with homosexuality, they changed overnight because of a vote, and it was just barely 55%. So because of a vote, so perhaps society could say, well, you know, being gay, there's something wrong with that. Not listening to your teachers, or not listening to authority figures, there's something wrong with that. No, there isn't anything wrong with that. There's actually everything right with that. And so, you know, I think we need to really change. William Glasser says that 95% of all the problems can be done with reality therapy. They can be solved with reality therapy. And that's give people freedom, give people power, respect them, make things fun and interesting. William Glasser totally changes the game. He says actually most people's problems that seem insane is their inability to communicate with those that they love. And I've seen this in my own life. I've seen this in other people's life. So, you know, the overall point being that the APA's taxonomy is nothing more than self-serving nonsense. Real illnesses, for most of the cases, are not banished by voting or by fiat, but by valid science and hard work. There are no mental illnesses. There are just people. We have problems. We have orientations. We have habits. We have perspectives. Sometimes we do well. Other times we fuck up. We're complicated. Our feelings fluctuate with our circumstances from the depths of despondency to pinnacles of bliss. And perhaps most of all, we're individuals. So the fact that homosexuality was a disorder at one point and now it's not, I think we need to start treating people like people instead of trying to dope them up in order to, make them compliant.